Now I got to do my job.
Yes.
And it's recording now?
Yes.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I have tested it.
Oh, you tested it. Okay.
Okay. Oh, you're taking the picture?
No, I'm actually recording.
Okay. So I'm going to do the introduction.
Okay.
So today is March 12th, 2018. We're at 84 West 120th Street. The project is People's History of Harlem, sponsored by New York Public Library in association with Harlem Residence Economic Development Corporation. And I am Yameng Xia from Columbia University. I'm going to interview
Dawn Harris Martine. Okay.
This is how it is.
Oh,
Thank you.
good. Okay.
Okay.
I'll put that.
Now you could just hold it like this.
Like this way?
Yeah. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
And just make sure you speak loudly.
Oh, okay. Maybe start with tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Dawn Harris Martine. I'm 79 years old and the owner of Grandma's Place in Harlem. I am a retired school teacher. I'm an architectural draftswoman and an entrepreneur.
I just like to interrupt for a moment. I just want to make sure that that's on. Is that on, the audio?
Sure.
It's on? Okay. All right. Sorry.
Sure.
All of this will be edited out, so it's no
Okay.
big deal.
So when did you come to New York?
I've always lived in New York. I was born in New York,
Wow, that's cool.
Harlem Hospital.
Harlem Hospital.
So you're actually a very rare breed.
Yes.
Someone who's born and bred here in Harlem. So this is
Yes, I am.
indeed an honor.
My mother came from Opelousas, Louisiana,
Okay.
but she had me here.
Okay, so after you ended your career as a teacher, how did you start your business?
Well, it didn't happen that way. While I was working as a teacher, I opened the store. I opened the store in 1999. And I did so because I've been wanting to open a store many years, and I said if I don't do it before the next century comes in, I won't do it. So I forced myself. And what happened was that this building was available at the same time that I decided that I was going to do this. So they just started renovating this building, and I said, well, I have the opportunity of putting something in the store, in that space that I want, or maybe a fish and chip joint or vegetables or something will be there. So I decided to open a literacy center here because I was a teacher and I saw the need for, that's my phone.
Okay, so I'm going to put this on pause.
Y'all are going to have to show me how to take my phone and deaden it because I wasn't thinking of it. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do this with this phone?
Is that the volume there?
This, I think,
Okay, so they hung up. So I
I don't
think this
know.
is the volume. Okay, so
maybe let's put it in the bathroom.
Okay.
Because I don't know whether it's off or not.
Can you figure out how to turn it off?
Turn off?
Yeah, turn it off the sound so
turn
it
the
doesn't
sound
ring.
off.
Let's see. I would hold it as close to you as you.
Okay.
That is comfortable. Sometimes when you hold it for a long time, you get tired. It's off now. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amen.
But if I do this, I mean, it looks like I have a microphone. You don't have any of those clipping things that you can clip stuff on?
Not today, no.
Okay. All right. What was the question again? I forgot.
I was asking how did you start your business?
Okay. Yeah.
And you were talking about how you first started it
I
as
started
a
as
literacy.
a literacy center because I was a school teacher and I saw the need. There were 70-year-old people that could not read, and there were little children that people wanted to homeschool. So the church down the street had 9 children that they wanted to homeschool, and so I opened the literacy center here. I taught little children here and old people, 73 years old, how to read their Bible, and everybody in between, kids that have gone to school and still couldn't read. And so I opened a literacy center with 25,000 volumes of books, and the law library of Cora Walker, a retired lawyer. She was closing her office, and she donated her barrister bookcases and her tables and chairs and file cabinets. And with that stuff, I opened a literacy center.
Is it at the same place of this?
This place right here, yes.
Oh, okay.
So it had 25,000 volumes of books, tables and chairs, and I started teaching children and people how to read. And I did that after school. I taught school from 9 to 3 and from 3 on. But during the mornings, I had people here teaching the young children. In the evening, I taught the adults.
Oh.
And what did you teach in school when you were working?
I was a second grade teacher for 20 years, and I was a literacy teacher for 15 to 21-year-olds for 10 years.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, so is it a non-profit or?
Yes, the place was, the literacy center was a non-for-profit.
Oh, okay. So in the meantime, it's like kind of like a part-time job because you teach them after.
It was a part-time, but it wasn't part-time because it was on the weekends from 3 to 10 at night, ongoing. It was just, it was necessary for the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a library in my brownstone, which is right next door, and I had over 50,000 volumes of books there. And so between here and inside, I taught people how to read. And I learned a lot of things from people, you know.
Where do you find your the students? Are them from
The students found me. The students found me. They some of the students came from as the parents of the children that I was teaching in the second grade. Some of the people that lived in the neighborhood heard that I was teaching people how to read. And the 73-year-old gentleman that I taught to read the Bible came from his church across the street.
So how do you teach them since they
Well, it's very funny. You know, there's so many ways to teach people how to read. You have to decide which way they need to learn how to read. So with the younger children, it's easier because you have sight words and you can label the things in the house and they can learn to read that way. Through this man in his Bible, he wanted to read the Bible so many times and he almost memorized it. So it was just showing him which words meant the words that he'd been saying all of his life. So it was many ways to teach people how to read.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. I like teaching. I like teaching children and I like teaching adults and I like teaching old people because they will stay at a task longer than children will.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes to show that learning is a never-ending process.
It certainly
it's a lifelong process.
It certainly is.
And unfortunately, as young people, we don't, I didn't know that when I was a kid. It was like, I can't wait to get out of school and finish and be done with it. But it's really, truly a lifelong process.
My mother called me a professional student because I loved going to school. My mother had 3 jobs when I grew up. She had 2 full-time jobs during the day, and on Saturdays she worked a part-time job. So my teachers were really my parents. So I loved to go to school because I did well in school and I got praise from my teachers. So to go to school for me, I would go to school sick because I loved being in school and I loved learning things. And my mother had 2 jobs, so my sister took me from after school. There were no after schools when I'm 79. My sister would take me to the public library and leave me in the public library and go and play with her friends. So I read all the books in the children's section and they started letting me go into the adult section because I'd read all the children's books. So the New York Public Library was my babysitter and my daycare center.
And those were the libraries here in Harlem?
Yes, the library on 115th Street. I think they named it after Harry Belafonte recently. But that was my library.
Good for you.
Yes.
That's great.
Sorry. So how did you transition from the literacy program to a bookstore?
Well, what happened? How did I transition from a well, you see, the thing was, I never intended to have a toy store, but my rent doubled at the end of the 5th year. By 2005, they wanted twice what they wanted for rent. And I was doing this out of pocket as a teacher. And at that point, I had the brownstone next door, 2 teenage daughters, and the store. So I could not afford to pay that. So I had to bring something into the store. I tried selling the books, and the books didn't sell. And so I started introducing educational toys, and that started taking off to the point where the toys took over the books, and it became a toy store with books. But initially, it was a bookstore with toys, and that's how that happened. And I started out with books for first graders to 12th graders, and I found out that the majority of parents that came in here were looking for books for little children. So I started from 0 to, until 7th grade, and that was my niche.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it happened. But when I first started it, I did not have baby toys. Now half the store, one entire half of the store is baby toys, because parents come and want their kids to do well.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your biggest sellers?
Books, baby books, plush toys, dolls, science games. I have lots of science things. The STEM thing now is big,
Mm-hmm.
so I make sure that I have those kinds of things, games that children think and use critical thinking skills, as opposed to, I had nothing in here that was electronic. No, what do you call it?
Mm-hmm. Video
games and all
mm-hmm.
that. Don't have any of that. So it had to have a game that people had to use to think,
Mm-hmm.
communicate, and strategize.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my criteria. I have opened it up a little bit now, because there are some really interesting things that teach kids to read, and there are kids at home that need those kinds of things, but it's very few things that are like that in here.
Okay.
I leave that to Toys R Us, that are now out of business.
Oh, they are?
Yes, they just went out of business.
Wow. So what are some of the what are some of the programs that you have in addition to, or what are some of the other things that you sell, services, in addition to the products that you have here?
The one thing is, I like children to know that books are written by people. So I have authors signing so that children can come and see people that really wrote books, and they can ask questions about the books, especially if it's an author that they're familiar with and that they've read their books. So I connect the children with the authors. I also have, I get the kids 3 times a year that I get the new toys from Toy Fair, and I'll let them try them out to see what I'm going to buy, what I'm going to really stock up on, because I know what I like, but I want to know what the kids like. So there are certain kids in the neighborhoods that have grown up trying out toys for me and giving me feedback with toys.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a toy that has to be constructed, I have them come into the house and construct the toy, and then ask them, was that fun, or was that funny, did you enjoy it, and how would they grade it? So they really enjoy that.
Okay, Yasmin.
Okay. Sorry, can you put down the eyes? Yeah, because you were talking about you find your children's needs by letting them try your toys. Is that right?
I guess the thing of it is, I'm an educator and I'm the teacher. I've been teaching for 35 years, and I taught 1st grade and 2nd grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I bought toys, I had my children's toys from home that I took to the class. So I kind of knew what kinds of toys I like to have kids do. And when I started the store, those are the kinds of toys that I bought. But then I also went to Toy Fair every February, and all of the new things. And I wasn't quite sure which toys would go and which toys wouldn't. So I would only get 2 or 3 of them and bring them into the store and let the kids try them out. So this is what this stand back there is. I put a toy or 2 out there and let the kids come in and play with them and see what's going on. So that's how I would eliminate. And sometimes kids would come in and say, there was a thing like a flinging kind of toy that everybody started having, and they came in and asked me if I had it, and I didn't have it, but a fidget or something. And then when I got a fidget, I saw that it comes apart, and that it's really a dangerous kind of toy. So I stopped. I wouldn't carry it. So it's that kind of thing. Sometimes they come in asking for certain toys, and certain toys I won't carry. I won't carry toys that have buttons for eyes and nose that can come off in a kid's, teeth, or, so you have to be really careful about the kinds of toys that you bring in, because they're not all good for kids to play with,
You were talking about your criteria that you don't like the toys with electricity.
Yes, I sit in the bus and I watch children sitting side by side, their friend, and they're not talking to one another. Their heads are down, they're pushing buttons on the thing. And they're not, you don't have, and no interaction whatsoever. I like the kinds of toys that children have to sit opposite each other and strategize and think out loud and talk to one another in order to play these games. Those kind of mindless toys, they don't need anybody. So it really breaks down the communications as far as children are concerned. I used to ask kids in my second grade class to make games. I never missed an opportunity to get a kid to read, write, or think. Write endings to stories, change the endings of stories, create new games. Those kinds of things are the things that kids can think about and create themselves.
So, like you were talking about, let's just back a little bit. When you first start to buy these toys, where did you find it, and where did you get the money to start it?
Oh, well, the money came from the New York City Board of Education, my teacher's salary. That's where it came from. I had a TDA, which is whatever it is. It's like, your money that you put away. And I used my own tax deferred annuity. Okay. Yes, I used my own money, and I did everything wrong when I started this business. 2 years after I started the business, I took a workshop in business opportunity, WeBo, and for every Tuesday I went to 125th Street to this class, and it was a 16-week class. And at the end of 16 weeks, I had a business plan, because every week you did a certain thing. Halfway through this WeBo course, I realized I should not have been in business, because I wasn't doing anything right. They said, don't use your own money, don't do this, don't do that. And halfway through this, I said, I'm doing everything wrong. But I made a promise to myself a long time ago that whatever I start, I finish. Before, I didn't do that. When I was younger, if I wanted to learn how to knit, I'd start knitting. And if I wanted to learn how to do something else, and halfway through it, I'd get bored with it and I put it down. And I found that I never really accomplished anything. So I didn't really like that idea. So I decided that whatever I took on, I was going to finish. And I did less things, but I got more accomplished. And so that's how I felt about this store. I was bound and determined that this store was going to last. And 20 years later, it's still around. When a lot of stores are gone. And it's because I've invested my own money and my own time, and I've got other people involved. I got my entire family involved in this business, and they look at it as grandma's joy. It's something that I really, really enjoy doing. I meet people, I talk to children, and I feel like I'm making a difference in the community. And that's what keeps me going when I look at the profit and loss situation, But I have help on the horizon. My daughter now is taking a big interest in it, and her fiance, everybody, the whole family now is really looking at the store, and they're teaching me something. I am now involved in social media. I never was and I never understood social media. Now I'm understanding what social media can do. Before that, I didn't. Now I understand it. I still can't do it. I mean, I have problems with even my phone, but they go online and what's Twitter and tweet and Instagram and do all of these things, and people are coming in. So I'm reaching an audience that I never reached before. It was a well-kept secret in the neighborhood, but now it's getting outside of the neighborhood. And so now I have an online store now, and that online store is beginning to do a lot of business. So I think that that's going to help the brick and mortar, as they call it. I'm very excited about it.
I've checked out the website, and also I saw like a newspaper report
Yes.
on your desk. Could you tell more about that? I think it's like at 2012 maybe, the newspaper report.
Oh, that up there?
Yeah.
Well, Harlem. What's it called?
Is it Home Community News?
No, it's Harlem Business Alliance.
Oh, Harlem Business Alliance.
Right.
Yes.
They, they come around and they ask you, what's going on. And at that point, I was struggling with the social media, and so they sent 2 of their people that were volunteers with Harlem Business Alliance to come and help me do that. So that was the article, because at the point of that time, I was thinking that I might have to close my store. So they sent these 2 young ladies, and they helped me understand what social media was, and that introduced me to social media. But it didn't really last, because with this particular kind of social media, you have to constantly keep feeding it and upgrading it and getting people to follow you and do all of these kinds of things. And they weren't here for the lifetime of the store. They were there for a brief time and then they left. And so somebody had to come and step into that void, and I had nobody to do that. So it kind of petered out. But at least I recognized that there was something there, but I didn't really get really involved until my daughter, who works for Bloomberg, started looking at it and taking it on as a project. And I have one daughter that's graduated from Wharton, and this other one is an architect, and she works for Bloomberg, and they keep me pointed in the right direction. So this is my legacy to them. They're gonna be able to run this after I'm gone.
So what was it about that point in time when Harlem Business Alliance became involved that made you feel that the store may have gone under? What was going on with the business?
What was going on was that I was spending an inordinate amount of my New York City Board of Education money to put into the store. I didn't meet I had salaries and vendors and things like that, and all taxes, sales taxes, and all kinds of things. And at the end of the month, I was pumping my money into the business, and so I had to think about whether or not I wanted to continue doing it. And so Harlem Business stepped in and said, the community really appreciates you being here, and we want you to be around for a while. So that kind of perked me up and kept me pointing in that same direction.
Emmy?
I have also checked the Yelp.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of reviews under your
How are
store.
my reviews at Yelp?
And I also saw some pictures like you and another girl.
Yes.
And the girl like hold a picture she draw.
Uh-huh.
Like, is it the activity in the store?
Well, yes. Well, I had an author. What happened was that she was a young girl, and she had written a book, and so Shane Evans, who was an author, and he wrote Chocolate Me and Mixed Me with what's the man? I can't think of the guy's name, but anyway, they were here, and he was doing a reading, and I had the young girl come in, and he read her book, and they talked as authors. And I had that, it was an author signing. I have a backyard right next door in my brownstone, and so we had a ceremony. So she got a chance to interview an author, and he interviewed her, and it was a wonderful thing. And she's 6 years old, and right now I'm encouraging her to write a book about her family. She has 2 families. In one family, she's an only child, and in the other family, she's the big sister of 3 younger siblings. So she has a unique opportunity to be an only child and to be a big sister. So I'm encouraging her to write the story of that, because I'm sure that there are kids in the community and in the world that would appreciate that kind of thing, that maybe have the same kind of challenges that she has.
Speaking of challenges, what have, in addition to the funding issue, what have been some of the challenges that you've overcome?
Challenges with the business?
Yes.
Staff, salaries, staff, getting committed people to come in, not being able to pay them what I think they're worth. If I could get someone to come in and manage the store, the amount of money that I would have to pay them there's no profit in the store.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like friends and family coming in, and you have to deal with friends and family because you're not paying them. And you know, everybody loves the store and wants to do the store, but they always want to do it their own way. So it's a combination of trying to keep everybody happy and keep everybody pointed in the right direction, and to keep them understanding what my vision and what my dream about the store is. So we just changed the store around this time. This is the third time in 20 years that we've changed it. So it doesn't change very often, but it's changed twice in 1 year, as far as the setup and where things are and whatnot.
How has that affected the business of the store?
It's improving.
Mm-hmm.
It's really improving, and you know, it kind of morphed into what it was. But then I saw that it really wasn't working, and so I just changed a few things. And when I saw that I changed that, the thing was, I've got so much stuff in here now. When I first opened, the shelves were bare. I mean, I just put stuff around and everything fit. But then as we go to Toy Fair and we get more and more stuff, you really have to put it where, you know, you can see it and where people can see it and where you can find it. And that was the other thing, of keeping track of inventory. I changed my computer system and my point of sale system 2 or 3 times to get something that allowed me to closer to the inventory, to know what I had in the basement,
Mm-hmm.
what was selling, what wasn't selling. When I first started in business, when I went to Toy Fair, I bought the toys that I thought I liked. and 6 months later, they were still sitting on the shelves. The next year, I started asking the vendors, what are the best sellers? You know, so a combination of what the vendors were telling me, what the parents and kids were telling me, and my own kind of thing. Because there's thousands. When you go to Toy Fair, there are vendors from all over the world there. And it's like 4 football fields full of toys. And how do you decide in 600 square feet what toys you bring? So, you know, so now, year by year, I get more and more toys and more things in here. So I had to find a place to put them. But the thing that really surprises me is the books. That parents come in a toy store and they say to the child, you're coming to buy a book. So I have to have very exciting books in here, and I do. And I go all over the country and to Canada to get books that have been remaindered. The multicultural books are not reprinted at the rate that other books are reprinted. So if some African American book or some Spanish American book has been published, it might not be republished. So I have to go to Canada to buy books that have been sold to the Canadians. So I do that, and I have a best stock books of multicultural books in the country, but I have people that come from Brooklyn and New Jersey to buy books for their classrooms. That's important. So
how do you know which kind of books are needed by them? Are there
I'm
any
a school teacher,
Okay.
and I have a personal children's library of over 50,000 books. About 400 books a year are published. I don't get all of them, but I get a significant amount of them. I review them, and authors come and ask me to carry their books. They self-publish. And so I'm constantly reviewing books for authors and whatnot. And so I have a lot of books. I order them, and ones that I know that they sell. I have an author, Ty Allen Jackson. He has a book called When I Close My Eyes, and it's a book where children learn to imagine. And I recommend that book to people. You know, people know that I'm a school teacher, that I love books, and so they said, well, what do you recommend? And I'll recommend books, and I've trained my staff to know what kinds of books, and so we carry a lot of different books here that parents can look at and decide what they're going to have. And I put books in parents' hands for children that are weeks old. They can start reading and showing them books as early as possible. And I encourage parents to read to their children every day. That's really important, And I've had parents that I gave parents wordless picture books so they could read to their children because they can't read. You see? So it's so important. And those are the parents that I taught in the Literacy Center. I taught parents to read in the Literacy Center, reading their children's books. So it's really important. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And it made a difference because both of my daughters went to college. And my daughter's daughters are going to college. But that has to start somewhere. And being literate and teaching parents to read and encouraging them to read and having reading groups for teen mothers. I used to work in Boys Harbor, and my job was I had a teen parent program. And in that program, I gave the parent, the teens who had little children, I gave a book to the parent and a book to the child, so that both of them could see each other reading. And that was a very successful program. And some of those kids now are in their 20s that were little kids growing up with books, and they said it made a difference in their lives. So it's very important.
How did you identify vendors, both on the book side and on the toy side, and how did you identify trade shows and expos like the toy fair?
First I did the toy fair. My first exposure to vendors was the toy fair, and I just simply looked, tried the toys out, looked at the toys there, got the catalogs, did the research after I had the toys, put the toys together. So little by little, each year, I've been in this business now 20 years. So every year, more vendors and more toys and other things like that. And just, watching TV. Sometimes these shows, the Channel 7 or Channel 2 will come up with a toy or something new happening, and I would look at that and decide whether or not I was going to carry it. I would buy it first and try it out and see whether it made sense. I'm not a big person on, what do they call it? Like Mickey Mouse, like labels. I can't think of, there's a name for it. Licensing.
Oh, right.
Licensing.
Mm-hmm.
That right now we have Paw Patrol in here. And, but that's about it. I don't particularly buy things with labels like that because you're paying money for the license. And so, it just makes them wealthy. Legos is another thing like that. And I hate to talk Legos down, but Legos does not give a vendor, a business person, a small business person, a break. If you're Walmart or Toys R Us or Target, you can buy 1,000 or 2,000 of something, and they buy them for what I sell. No, I have to pay. I have to pay for the doll. What Lego sells, what Toys R Us or Walmart sells them for.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't compete with that. So I don't bother. I don't carry anything in here. It's a unique toy boutique. I carry things that Toys R Us, Walmart won't carry. And that's how I'm still here, because I don't compete. I have toys from everywhere.
Are there any competition nearby? Competitors nearby?
Competition?
There is no competition. There is no competition. The nearest toy store is on 112th Street and Broadway, which is, I can't think of it. It's a bookstore. Bank Street Bookstore carries toys. But other than that, there's no other place. And then around Christmas time, Toys R Us and different stores have pop-up stores all over Harlem just for Christmas. And at that point in time, everything is sky high, twice as much as it is the same toys downtown. They put it up here and people buy it. So No competition.
So you don't consider like Toys R Us, formerly here, or Walmart, or any of the larger
Target.
stores, Target, Costco even sells books and
Yes,
toys.
I mean, they're my competition, but the fact of the matter is, they don't have the diversity and the things that I have. They have things that they know we're going to sell, and it's big ticket items, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So around Christmas time, I will bring those kinds of things into the store. But just a year round, I have quite a selection that if someone comes, I have regular parents coming here every Saturday for birthday parties or whatever they're giving. They come here first. So I'm growing a following of people that know that they're going to come here and there's going to be something unique here that they can't see anywhere else in the city.
Like, how do you build your regular customers?
How do I know them?
Yeah.
They come in, they like the service. I have fantastic shopping bags. I wrap presents. I have wrapping paper. I wrap for free. We have people that talk to people about whatever it is they need. And they like the ambience of the store, you know. And I'm here and, you know, get to talk to grandma and whatever. But they come back. They like the treatment that they have. They say they like the feeling of the store.
The name of the store was Grandma's Place.
Yes.
It is like when the store was opened, it is this name or it has changed?
No, it's Grandma's Place.
Oh, okay.
It's Grandma's Place. My granddaughter, Chelsea, named it. I told you I opened as a literacy center, and so I wanted to name the literacy center Kindred Literacy Center. And she was 7 years old, and she said, "No, Grandma, it's Grandma's Place." So I said, "Okay, if that's the name of it, I'll name it Grandma's Place." That's what it was. My daughter laid the floors and put the shelves in. You know, it's been a family business. It's been a family project since it began.
And how have you grown the business?
Listen, I just by sheer sticking it, you know, staying with it. And the other thing is that smart people come in here and they see the potential of the place and they give me great ideas. Mm-hmm. And so being open to ideas from people that come in here, that's basically how it happens. There's a gentleman whose name is Abel, the little girl who wrote the book. Her father came in and he said to me, "You know, you need," I don't remember what it was that he was talking about, but I think it was some kind of advertising or something. And he told me about that, and I tried doing it, and it worked. So, you know, just different things like that. And people coming in and telling me about a new point of sale system. Recently, I had a young lady, Danielle, came in and she's helped me. And my daughters are always, you know, giving me good ideas. You know, because they're out there in the universe, and so they like to tell me different things. Sometimes I listen, and sometimes I don't.
What kind of advertisement do you have now? What kind of advertising?
What I have now, thanks to my daughter, is Twitter, Instagram, and something else, and Facebook. So, you know, they put up the pictures. When the toys come from Toy Fair or when the toys arrive, they come and they take pictures and they put them on Facebook or they put them on Instagram and they talk about them and they tweet and they Twitter and they do all of these things, and I I don't do any of that. I don't even know how to get on my Facebook account, but they do. And my granddaughters are good too.
Do you do any traditional advertising, like in local newspapers, or have flyers and?
No, we're getting ready to do flyers. We're getting ready to do flyers now, and the other thing is I was looking at. Follow us on Facebook or something and come in and tell us, you know, you get 10% off and different things like that. But I feel my prices are reasonable and word of mouth is out there, and that's how I've gotten as far as I've gotten. But as I say, I'm amenable to all of these other things, but I don't have the time or the understanding on doing these other kinds of electronic things. I leave that to my granddaughters and my daughters.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend business training for someone starting out in business?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Please don't do what I did. You might not have the resources of the New York Board of Education to subsidize you. You know, I mean, don't. You know, they said that for a reason. Do a business plan. Go to classes. Work in somebody else's store. Get the experience. Do not fly by the seat of your pants, because businesses go under all the time. But the other side of that is to follow your dream. You can never get wealthy working for someone else. The only way you're going to accumulate wealth is to have an idea or something that you can sell and that you can make money with. You cannot make money working for somebody else. It's not going to happen. You can work and save your money to do something else. And the other thing is that I have trained about 12 to 13 young people that left the store, and each one of them now is an entrepreneur. Each one of those people that left are doing things. One woman is she makes clothing, children's clothing. Another one sells the stuff on eBay and Amazon. Another one is down in Florida doing something, but they're spread out. When they leave here, they know that they want to do something, because I give them their heads. When they work in here for me, I'm open to their ideas. I'm open to what they tell me, and it's an exchange. And so they learn to trust their own instincts about things. They understand what business is about, and they feel like they can go out and do it. So that's another thing that I feel very fortunate that I have them doing that. Like my granddaughter now, she's in college, and she's now working at a daycare center with an eye of learning the business, and she's planning on opening her own daycare center. So it really works.
Good for you. Who have been some of your role models in terms of business? Sounds like your children.
Yes, my children. I have a 95, now he's 95. I have a 95-year-old friend whose name was Winslow Roy Steele, and he's a pharmacist. And when I was growing up, he ran the pharmacy where I lived. And he'd let me come in the store and play pharmacist. I'd sell, and I would be in behind the counter selling stuff.
And where was this located?
Right there in Delano Village. And he's 95 years old. He's sold both of his pharmacies, and he works in a pharmacy a few days a week because he likes people and he wants to do something. Mm-hmm. So he was my mentor, my first idea about me handling money and being behind a cash register and all doing that kind of stuff. Another mentor of mine was Nipsey Russell. He was my godfather. And Nipsey Russell was the one that was instrumental in me going to college and staying in college, because he encouraged me. And he encouraged me from the time I was about 7 years old by telling me that I was smart and that I needed to go to school and, and do something with myself. Mm-hmm. So those kinds of things, people encourage you as a child that you can do other things and be somebody. And God bless my mother. My mother was a single parent, and she allowed me to go to Delahanty Institute, spent her $600 to send me to Delahanty Institute so I could become a draftswoman. She couldn't afford to send me to college, but she sent me to Delahanty. I got a job as a draftswoman and saved my own money and allowed myself to go to college. And then I won a Ford Foundation scholarship and I decided to go to Sarah Lawrence College, and I did. And I graduated from there. And then I went to Columbia University and got my master's in education.
Wow.
That's how it all happened. So, my mom got a 7th grade education, but she always understood that education was the key. So anytime if I wanted to do something, she was always behind me. piano lessons, art lessons, any kind of lesson that I wanted to take. My mother found the money to do it because she did 3 jobs in order to be able to do that for me.
You're quite accomplished. Quite accomplished.
She's something else.
Really makes us proud and privileged to be in your presence.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. Well, you know what? I've always felt like my granddaughters and my daughters were looking at me, and that I had to step up and I had to keep moving because I wanted them to be the kinds of people that know that they can do anything they wanted to do. And one of my daughters is an architect. The other daughter is a self-made person, graduated from Wharton, has a master's in entrepreneurial management and marketing. And, everybody's doing their own thing. And my 2 granddaughters that are coming up, they have the same kind of drive because I'm setting that example. I make my own moves and I do what I have to do. And I'm not, their friends and all the women and all the people that we know all feel like they're empowered to do those kinds of things because they know that somebody's done it.
Do you have any more questions for us?
Yeah, only one question.
Okay.
Like, I'm wondering what kind of business are you recommend? Well, see, like as a young student, I really want to start my own business, but I don't know which field or which part I could be focused on. So.
You know what? What are your interests? What do you like to do? You have to look into your own self. I thought of toys and books because I loved books and I never had toys as a child. So I just gravitated towards when I bought my first toy when I was 21 years old.
What is that?
A G.I. Joe and Barbie. Okay, and I bought them and and books have always been